you'll understand what's really limiting your breathing so that you can breathe better, move better, think better, feel better. We don't breathe better, just simply breathe better. I got this from a wonderful yoga teacher called Tiger Bai. So there's no point just breathing better for the sake of breathing better. It's what the downstream effects of that are. And so most of you have come here because of the term longevity. And I think, that's something that interests all of us, right? We want to live a better quality of life for a longer period of time. And I truly believe that a big key to that is in our breath. And the modern world is working against us and is actually making things worse. And so what can we do with our toolkits to make that better? So here's the plan for today. We're going to go over what is lung capacity and why it's essential, how to measure it at home without any fancy tools, how to increase it safely, and we're going to talk about the role that fascia plays in breathing and how that's often for most people, because I'm going to guess now, give me a wave if you've never done a breathing exercise before. I bet there's nobody on here that's not done breathing. If you're on my mailing list or watching my YouTube channel, I bet you're into breathing. Yeah, I can't see anybody waving. But what most people haven't addressed, and this is me up until a couple of years ago, is the fascia system that sits around all of your organs in your body. And so we are also going to be looking at what that is today and how you can use that to unleash your body. Okay. As part of that, and one of the big reasons that we're here today, is next Sunday, we're going to be rolling out a 4-week live program with the incredible Lottie Parup. She's a Danish fascia expert, and tickets go on sale directly after this. I'll talk more about that later, so hang fire. I'm very excited about that. In that course, there are 4 weeks of programs. Again, I'm going to go into all the detail at the end, but if this is something you're interested in, you can ask some questions about this, but we're very, very excited. So just a quick bit about me. So I was the corporate guy. I spent 12 years working at British Gas, huge corporation in the UK. And on the surface, I looked like I was doing all right. Had a big team of people that were working for me. Get to go to all the big parties, blah, blah, blah. Inside, I was a real mess. I was anxious, close to panic most days. Didn't know what anxiety was, but now I understand that I had that. My sleep was terrible. My Sundays were destroyed. I used to be so scared about work on a Monday morning. And then I got to go and hang out with a crazy Dutch Iceman called Wim Hof 10 years ago, actually, 10 years ago this year. And I got to climb a mountain in my underwear. And I was the most skeptical guy in the world. And after I ended up crying in a basement with Wim, doing some breathing techniques, I remember thinking, what the heck has just happened to me? And that just put me on this 10-year journey that I've been on now. So, I've been humbled by the breath on so many occasions, I've lost track. So I now am a teacher, a facilitator of breathwork. I get to go on things like the BBC on a regular basis and talk to the audiences about the power of breathwork. And most of you probably know of the Take a Deep Breath channel, which we aim to make the best free resource on the planet for breathing. We've got 150 interviews with some of the world's top scientists and yogas and authors, and all that is there for free. We've got over 400 breathing exercises on there as well. So if you're not in that resource too much, then after today you might want to dig around, and I'm going to pull a few bits out for you as well that could help you on your journey, because the truth is a lot of the information is out there, and our job is just to try and bring it to you, and I absolutely love doing that through the podcast. So lung capacity and longevity, what's going on there apart from my spelling mistake there? This comes from the New England Medical Journal, and this was written about actually in Nestor's book Breath. He said lung capacity was the single best predictor of mortality, so death, even when basically excluding things of like age, smoking, blood pressure and cholesterol. So lung capacity, I don't think that gets enough attention. I think when you think about what's good for longevity, you think about body fat mass, you probably think about age, you probably think about diet. Very rare have I ever seen, I don't think I've ever seen that in the common press, that lung capacity is the main thing. How important, and we kind of know that to be the case. And as we age, if we have to go for surgery, for example, you want to have lung capacity. If you are in some sort of emergency situation, you need to be able to breathe. And as we age, we lose a lot of lung capacity. I actually found this little clip just before we went live today. 100-year-old yoga instructor keeps on dancing. This lady is 100 years old. What's really beautiful about this, and Nestor summarizes this beautifully in his book, even if we breathe through the nose, which is a big thing these days, nose breathing, 24 hours a day, it won't help much unless we've got lung capacity to hold that air. And then he goes on to say, just a few minutes of daily bending and breathing can expand lung capacity. So what I hope to convey tonight is an expansion on that, which is, as we age, we end up almost suffocating on our rib cage, but we do not have to, because through the right stretching and protocols, which only take minutes, not hours a day, you can absolutely change and measure this as well. That's the most important part. You can measure this at home as well. So hopefully I've piqued your interest as we go through. We are going to go through some practical exercises, but a lot of this is a workshop. So I'm going to be asking you some questions and sharing a few bits with you as well. So I call this, in my method, we have the reset method at Take a Deep Breath. And the first R of reset is release. And I think that's probably the most important part of our reset method. So I'm only going to give you a little bit about that today. But release, if you think about it this way, you've got your ribs, your diaphragm, and you've got your lungs. And your lung capacity is really linked by the ribs and diaphragm. They're the really important parts that we struggle with. So we're going to be looking at that today. And there's lots of different words for this. It could be yoga or stretching. It could be the types of breathing that you are. But we're going to break it down a little bit so it's a lot clearer. And I'll start here. So there's a Dr. Gerberg of Gerberg and Brown. She's wrote many books on breathing with her husband, and I think she works at Columbia. And she said, your brain is always listening to your lungs. And we know that to be true, because if you were to suddenly start to choke on your dinner, it would probably only be a matter of seconds before panic kicked in. You know, your body's going to know there's an obstruction, you can't breathe, your heart rate's going to go, there's going to be contractions happening, there's going to be sweating, there's going to be a lot of things happening, because the brain is always listening to the lungs. It's one of, if not the most important connections that we've got, and it's one of the most important things the doctors will check. They'll look at your oxygen levels when you go to the hospital, and this connection can be exploited. So, if we're breathing rapidly in a shallow way, we're going to be sending signals to the brain. The brain's listening to those rapid breathing patterns, and it's going to interpret those signals and send messages down the nervous system. If we do something slightly different, which is a soft, gentle, slow, relaxing breath, then the brain's listening to that and it's going to send signals down the nervous system. And so what we're talking about here is changing the way that we breathe. And if your lung capacity is compromised in any way, then the chances are you're going to be breathing slightly faster and slightly shallower. And 25,000 times you do that a day is 25,000 signals that go to your brain, to your nervous system, which is why this is so important. I found this lovely quote here. I'll just read it out to you. A yogi's life is not measured by the number of his days, but by the number of his breaths, or their breaths. Therefore, they follow the proper rhythmic patterns of slow, deep breathing. These rhythmic patterns strengthen the respiratory system, soothe the nervous system, and reduce cravings. As desires and cravings diminish, the mind is set free and becomes a fit vehicle for concentration. The book's there if you want to go deeper on that. So, average life expectancy, it varies. I'm not here to be depressing. We can hopefully do better, but 80 seems to be around what we get if we kind of average it together. We would typically get around 3 billion heartbeats during that time. And we would have around 670 million breaths. It's quite a lot. Now here's the interesting part about all of this. So an increasing body of scientific research and observational evidence shows that resting heart rate is linked to lifespan. And this was their study. After 3 months of practicing slow breathing, there was a statistically significant reduction in heart rate and spontaneous respiratory rate. So what I'm sharing here is we get so many years on this planet. There seems to be a link between our heart rate and our breathing rate, and the modern world is making our breathing rate increase. Stress, anxiety, sitting, all these things are affecting our respiratory rate. But we can actually reverse that and go the other way, and we can start to slow it back down again, which is very, very cool. I'm going to show you some ways to do that today. As Nesta told me, the author of Breath, and I've heard this from a number of experts since, they generally agree between 90 and 95% of us have got something going on with our breath, which is mental, right? That's crazy. How can that be? We all know how to breathe. We're born breathers. And yet what happens is the modern world we live in today is not the world we were designed to live in. You know, me sitting here right now in a weird seated position, talking to a screen is not probably what was had in mind for us, a couple of thousand years ago. So we have to recognize that we live in a different world, which is why breathing techniques and what we're sharing tonight is so important. It's unlikely cavemen had breath coaches and they didn't need them, but today we have running coaches and movement coaches and dietitians, because the modern world is constantly bombarding us and attacking us and changing us. We live in the most overstimulated time in all of known human history. And so unfortunately, there's been a rise in anxiety, stress, depression, all those things, chronic fatigue. But then what's also been a rise in is all of these holistic ways of reversing some of the damage done by the modern world. So I want you to think about your body as a beautiful Ferrari, or pick whatever car or machine resonates with you most. I've been obsessed with that Ferrari since I was 9 years old, and my uncle gave me a little model of it. And I haven't got one, but I do have a little Lego version. So that's probably about as close I'll ever get to one of those. Now, I want you to think about your body being the Ferrari, and this can be our vehicle of breathing. Now, a lot of people, when it comes to breath work and all those sorts of things, and the car, they'll think about the type of fuel that they want to put in, or maybe the kind of polish they're going to use. Maybe they're going to go for a really expensive polish, or some great tyres to put on that car. Got a 1971 VW Bug. Thanks, Rene. Now, the problem is this. If you're obsessing over the fuel or the polish or the air freshener, but the engine doesn't work, then it's a bit pointless, right? Because why are you worrying about those other things if the car just can't move because the engine's on fire or the pistons are seized? And that is a good metaphor for us. So there are so many breathing techniques out there, and they will of course give you benefits. But if our rib cage is restricted, if our diaphragm is weak, if we're engaging the wrong muscles to breathe 25,000 times a day and our lung capacity is diminished, I don't really care about the other breathing techniques at this stage. I need to fix the engine first. So we need to put the fire out and get the pistons moving. And that's the whole thing around lung longevity. That's what we're doing in this. And there's a massive efficiency here. I always make this joke, and maybe somebody tonight can give me the answer, because maybe there is one. When it comes to what's better, if something's more efficient or less efficient, what we're talking about here is efficiency. And so I give you my tea bag analogy as being a Brit that drinks too many cups of tea every day. You want to leave the tea bag in the cup for longer because it's going to make the tea tastier and stronger. You want the air to be in the lungs a little bit longer. So if I was taking, 20 breaths a minute and you got me down to 10 or 12, I'm still going to have plenty of oxygen in my system, but I've just halved the amount of breaths that I'm taking, which doesn't sound like a lot over a day or a week, but over a year, there's going to be millions of breaths that I'm saving and a slower heart rate as well. So just think about tonight as its efficiency. That's the best way of putting it. Efficiency for longevity. So a little bit about lung capacity. So I do like this diagram. I think there could be a better one if it was 3D, but let's just look at a couple of the key players tonight when it comes to lung capacity and longevity. So when we take a deep breath in, the diaphragm comes down, and when we breathe back out again, the diaphragm comes up. Let's go back. So there's the inhale, and there's the exhale. Now look what's happening to the ribs. As we breathe in, the ribs open up, and as we breathe out, the ribs close again. Expand and contract. Let's pause that for a sec. There we go. So what's going on? Why is lung capacity dropping for us? Well, when we're immobile, we're sitting a lot and we've got all this chronic stress and we're changing our breath pattern, the ribs can get quite tight. And if we think about our hunter-gatherer ancestors, they moved very differently to us. Also, the diaphragm's a muscle. It's like a bicep muscle. And use it or lose it, I think, is the term that probably is most relevant here. So we need to be able to harness and use that diaphragm more. So I won't go through all of them now, but lung capacity, think about taking a big inhale and a big exhale. And so what they use in the medical world, one of the terms they use is forced vital capacity, where essentially it's a bit like blowing up a balloon. So you take your biggest inhale and you force it all back out again. Now here's the shocking thing. I found a lot of evidence on this. By the time we're 80, if we're not doing some of this work, we would have the same lung capacity as a 10-year-old. Now think about the size of a 10-year-old and think about the size of a fully grown human. That's insane. That's madness. So we can lose up to 44% of our lung capacity as we age, just through rib cage, diaphragm, using the wrong muscles. So there's plenty of evidence. You can go online and find this, but we are drastically losing that. But as Nesta says, just a few minutes of daily stretching a day the right stretching can make such a difference here as well. So a couple of bits that make us breathe poorly. I'm not going to labour this too much. I could talk to you all day about hunter-gatherers. I don't know why. It's been an obsession of mine for about 10 years. But I just find it fascinating that the world we live in now with a shop and sliced bread and Uber Eats and internet is so recent. And I just think back to my grandma and her generation that didn't even have a toilet inside the house and they didn't have a TV. Things have changed radically in the last 100 years. And if you go back 10,000 years plus, they really changed, before agriculture. And our body is basically the same body that they would have had. Evolution hasn't changed that much. And yet the lifestyle of somebody back then would be very different to today. Running, sprinting, climbing in a group of people, supporting each other, feeling nurtured, being in daylight, being connected to the planet, understanding the seasons, chewing for many, many hours. A lot of things happened. It wasn't emails. It wasn't, artificial light. It wasn't sitting for hours. It wasn't isolation. And all the things that we do today affect our gut, they affect our mind, and they affect our breath. The reason I'm so fascinated about breath work, however, is we can rapidly and safely change our underlying breathing habits. So the habits that you and I have got right now that you may not even be aware of can be changed and influenced quite quickly through the power of breath work. That's why it's so cool. You don't need tons of fancy equipment. You don't need 10 years to do this. It's not like building muscle or anything like that. First part is being consciously aware of what's going on, and we do that through breathing assessments. And the second part of what we do is we use the techniques to open the body back up again. So very, very empowering. I hope you're getting that from this. And it's, early January 2026. You probably made some resolutions, in the last couple of days. And what you're going to need for those resolutions is energy. And energy comes from having great sleep and from being able to have the right energy sent to the cells in your body. And the best way to have that energy sent to the cells in your body and to get great sleep is to breathe better. And we can change that quite quickly. Okay. Now, HRV is a term that's being bandied around a lot. There is a few problems with it. If you're into the HRV world, it's really hard to measure it. I've got an Aura ring and I question that. But what we do know is what influences HRV. So I'll just jump into that a little bit. So just to give you a couple of examples of this. So your heart rate and your HRV are different. Heart rate is the amount of beats that you get per minute. And heart rate variability, the HRV, is the gap between the beats. And why is that important? We used to think the heart was metronomic and every beat was the same. And when I got to interview a cardiologist, Dr. Alan Watkins, what he explained to me was your heart needs to be a great listener to what you're doing. So if you stand, if you sit, if you run, if you eat, if you get scared, if your blood pressure has to change, temperature changes, the heart's constantly listening to the body and having to make different changes, like millisecond by millisecond. And a healthy heart is a great listener and can make those changes. But a heart that's under chronic stress eventually becomes a little bit deaf and can't handle all the stimulation. And so the variability drops because it doesn't know what to do, and it starts to beat metronomically. And that's a problem for us. We need a good variety. Your heart has to do a lot of jobs. It has to handle all the things that we throw at it. One of the best ways to improve HRV is to do breath work. There's specific breathing techniques, but one of them is to have just more lung capacity. So lung capacity is very associated with more HRV, which is really, really cool. So to talk a little bit about the diaphragm, I want to talk about this lady here. She's one of my heroes, one of my mentors. Her name's Dr. Belissa Vranich. She wrote Breathing for Warriors. I'm very fortunate I've been able to train under her and be certified under her and also interview her a bunch of times. And she's ace. And part of the goodie bag that I'm going to share with you at the end of this is you'll get some interviews that I've done with her that are not all on YouTube either. And I'm going to come back to her in a second. I'm just going to share this with you. So when we think about the diaphragm, which is this big dome-shaped muscle here, we often think about breathing, but I want to just share a little bit of what else is going on there. So the diaphragm is connected by fascia. It's actually giving the heart a little tug, a little massage. And if you see all this stuff under here, your liver, your kidneys, your stomach, your guts, the diaphragm's actually giving that a lovely internal massage. And when we're struggling with our physical breathing or mechanics, we can lose some of that beautiful secondary function that the diaphragm has. So when we don't breathe properly, we put more pressure on our heart, so the HRV drops. We lose lung capacity, but we also lose the massaging effect. So people that come to me for one-to-one work, they'll sometimes talk about irritable bowel or back pain, and the diaphragm is helping massage the guts and stabilize the core. So there's a lot of other benefits that happen with the diaphragm. It's not just breathing, which is why we've got to get it moving. We've got to make it strong. We've got to get it moving. I'm just going to play a little clip from Nesta that came on my podcast. How are we doing for time, Kurt? Now, I have been known, I'm going to apologise now, I do tend to overrun sometimes on these. So if you have to go on the hour, you will get a copy of the replay, but I'll do my best to finish on the hour. But it's often hard to get, 10 years of research into a 60-minute class. So we shall see how we get on, but a quick apologies up front. Okay, so just a quick sound check. Can you hear this? Give me a wave. Where's it gone?
Breathing is not just biochemical, it's biomechanical. So I was just talking to two different doctors about this. By engaging the diaphragm, by breathing a little deeper, and by exhaling a little more, you're creating a larger and wider stroke of the diaphragm. That helps push blood into the heart, so it assists the heart. It also helps pump lymph fluid out. Ooh. So if you're not breathing properly, a lot of people with morbid obesity can't take a deep breath. So this lymph fluid just sits and collects and coagulates in their bodies, which causes all kinds of problems. So that's another reason to take these light, deep, full breaths, is to engage that diaphragmatic movement more, to pump more fluids, because the body wants things always moving, right? We don't want things to sit still for too long. That's true with our blood, and that's true with our lymph fluid. If you look at people who are just become upper chest breathers here, people who are anxious, they have a hard time taking these deep breaths. So their muscle memory is only to go up and down here. And I've seen this time and time again with people with anxiety or panic. You say, take a deep breath, and they go, they feel something that they haven't felt in so long because they haven't been relaxed for so long. And at the beginning, it makes them very uncomfortable. But the point is to gently and softly accustom them to the fact that this is actually very beneficial. This is a more efficient way of breathing, not only for oxygenation, but for moving lymph fluid and moving blood as well. So it just goes down to stress versus relaxation. When we're stressed, the diaphragm's just going like this, right? Just right here. That's great when we're stressed. You're taking in more air, you get that burst of energy, you're ready to fight someone or run away. But that is not how we should be living our lives, and not how we should be throughout the day. You need those low and fluid breaths.
Good. So let's just pause for 2 seconds. Give me a little wiggle or a wave if you're keeping up. I'm okay. You can hear me. We're doing all right. Interesting. Okay, good. All right. Okay. So just a little bit about digital goodie bags. I was meant to mention that. I think the slide's been moved later. So as a thank you for being here, you're going to get a load of stuff sent to you, one of which is going to be a link to do your breathing assessments. I'm going to talk a little bit about them, but not in too much detail. But what's really important is to know where your breathing is right now, because we can do subjective measurements, which are also really important. So we want to know, for example, like, what's my stress levels out of 10? These are the sort of things I do. What's my sleep quality? How do I feel when I wake up in the morning? So these are all important things, but I like data as well. And so I like to look at industry techniques for assessments. So I've compiled 4 together from 4 different places, 4 different schools of breathing. One from Belissa and Breathing for Warriors, one from the Oxygen Advantage, one from Buteyko, one from Shift Exhale. And so we pull them together, and it gives a really beautiful picture of your breathing. So you'll get that. And we're going to give you some interviews that go much deeper on fascia, on rib cage mobility, on how to improve your heart rate variability, and we'll give some exercise as well. So I really want you to walk away from today going, do you know what? Even though that was free, that was a ton of value. That's always my goal here, is I want you to go, right, okay, good use of my time, and actually I can use things that can actually change my life. So that's the mission here. So let's keep going. Okay. So just a little bit on the old rib cage. So there's two sets of muscles that we need to work, and you'll hear a term called respiratory muscle training, which is very in at the moment. So also known as the breath gym might be another way of doing it. So you've got muscles responsible in your rib cage for helping you inhale, and they'll contract to expand the rib cage. And then you've got muscles that help you exhale. And here's a funny little fact. You have two exhales. So if you think about blowing up a balloon, and then you let that balloon go, it's always going to have a little bit of air left in it. It never goes completely empty, right? It's not like when it came out the packet. So you let it go, and the natural force of that air in that balloon allowed it to shrink down. That's where the second exhale kicks in for us. So most of us never actually feel our second exhale. So I can take a deep breath in right now, and you can do that with me. Take a slow full inhale, and then let it go, mouth or nose. So that's empty, right? But I'm still talking. I haven't breathed in. And now I can go and I can actively squeeze the rest of the air. What's happening? One of the things there is those second set of muscles are kicking in, and they're squeezing the air out. And they're really important for our lung capacity as well, and for our general breathing. So the external intercostal muscles and the internal intercostal muscles. And we need to work both of them. If I was ever going to rename my channel or start again with a breathing channel, it would probably, although it doesn't sound as sexy, take a deep exhale. Because we are pretty good at taking deep breaths. We're not great often, but we need to work our exhale muscles. That's really important. I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. So I want you to think about your rib cage less as a bird cage and more like it's this floating, beautiful extra balloon. So think about your lungs as these balloons. Don't let them be trapped by the ribs and diaphragm. Let's get all that open. So I'm just going to touch on this lightly because this could be an hour, okay? I want to just give you the kind of high level view, and I'm going to send this to you afterwards as well. There are two types of breather, according to Dr. Bliss of Ranish's work. There is the vertical breather and the horizontal breather. What are they? So the vertical breather, which is the inefficient breather, what I believe she would say, and I hope I'm not misquoting this, the anatomically incongruent breather. I think I've said that right. So the vertical breather will engage shoulders and chest to take a breath. And the horizontal breather, which is the efficient breather, will breathe into their belly, their side, and this is the big one, into their back. Like most of us don't think about breathing into our back. And this is the efficient breather. It's a low breath. It's a slow breath. It's a deep breath. This is more of a stress, panic, anxiety breath. If you watch anybody in a stressful situation, they'll recruit these extra muscles because actually it's good. It's putting you in a stressful position. Brilliant. It means if you have to have a little fight or you need to run away, you're getting the adrenaline, the cortisol, you're getting the extra air in the system, you're ready to go. But most of us are breathing like that while we're watching TV, and it's damaging. It's damaging to our bodies. And so most of us are stuck here in a hybrid position where we're doing a bit of both. I'd say about 20% of the time when I see clients, they're stuck up here. But I'd say a good 80% are here. Very rarely does anybody come to me and they're a horizontal breather on day one. And so we have to retrain it. Here's the sad thing. This is the thing that breaks my heart, is we're generally great breathers until about the age of 5. So according to a study Veranich did, we generally lose that functional mechanical breathing when we're about 5 years old. What happens at that point? Most of us go to school. We start sitting. We start copying the teachers. We start getting some stress and some anxiety, and our breathing patterns shift. And it breaks my heart, particularly because I've got a 3-year-old downstairs, and we're doing everything we can to support that not happening. But I can see right now he's a beautiful breather. Even when he's like out of breath and he's running around and he's freaking knackered, that rib cage is moving beautifully and there's no engagement of the shoulders. And if you go back and look at some of my old videos when I didn't know about this like 6-7 years ago, and I'm doing breath work on camera, all of that's going on. I had no freaking idea. And I was a chest breather and I was a stomach sucker. I worked in the restaurant trade many, many years ago, putting up a ton of weight, just eating fries every day. It was heaven as a 20-year-old. And as part of that, what happened was I put a lot of weight on. I had a lot of shame. I would suck my stomach in. And I thought, okay, I'll look a bit thinner. And I got a little bit taller. But for decades, I was just locked like this. Didn't make me look any thinner. And I just had really, really bad breathing and a lot more stress and anxiety. So stomach sucking's a big one. In fact, my dog did it. I had a rescue dog. And whenever the washing machine would kick in, he would suck his stomach in because he was stressed. He was like in this kind of freeze position. So we've got a lot of work to do here, and this is just a workshop. We're going to give you a few tools, but ultimately, this takes time. This takes time and patience and tools. For example, when we work with clients and we do proper release work, we'll spend 3, 4, 5 weeks sometimes working on this, and we'll look at specific stretches for their body to open up the ribs, to relax the tummy, to make the diaphragm stronger, to open up the back. That's a crazy one. Even though you could do that a few years ago, get that diaphragm moving. So it's really, really important, all this work. Okay. So this is ironically, this video here is just of a person breathing, but this just shows you what poor breathing looks like. So it's not even meant to do that, but look at all that engagement up there. So watch the shoulders rise, and you don't have to do this with me now, but next time you're alone, you can do this in the Zoom window, or you can go and do it in front of the mirror. Take a few max inhales with your shirt off and just notice which parts of your body. Look at this engagement here. This is a very stressful breath this poor person taking. Very, very tight here. Breathing very, very inefficiently. If you have any sort of tension in your shoulders, that might be a clue that there's something going on there as well. The brain's always listening. So you don't need fancy tools to measure this. I'm going to send you the link how to do this. But essentially, you've got this thing called a breathing IQ from Dr. Vranich. Where's your breath? Is it chest? Is it abdomen, or is it a mix? And then you measure your inhale, exhale, and you get a score, and you get a grade from A to F. Again, I'm not going to go through that now. I'll send you the link. And let's talk a little bit now about fascia, and then I'm going to give you a couple of exercises to do. So fascia is really, really interesting. I believe up until the 90s, when there was an autopsy, they would just throw it away as this useless thing when they were doing their autopsies. What we realise now is very, very in. If you look at any sort of wellness stuff now, everyone's talking about fascia. And I like this image because what you're seeing here is this person's grabbed this suit in this spot, and the person's struggling to get their hands up. So I'm going to now share with you a clip from Lottie. Lottie's who we're running the course with next week, and she beautifully explains what is going on and why this might be the most important thing for your breathing routine right now. Not coherence breathing, not box breathing, not even nose breathing, dare I say, but actually getting your body to actually move properly. So give me 2 seconds while I have to fiddle with screens. How do I share video? Bear with me 2 seconds. Video file, there we go. Just do me a favour and give me a quick sound check when I start playing this. Give me a wave if you can hear it.
Well, our fascia interferes with our 24/7 breath. What does that mean? 24/7 is all day, all night. I mean, all life. We breathe, like you know, of course, and each breath is a movement that moves the fascia. But if the fascia are too tight, then you're having a harder time to breathe. That is the simple story about what I'm going to teach tonight. I looked up in the Google actually yesterday because I wanted to know how 2025 defines, how AI defines the fascia in the body. And I'm going to read a few sentences for you guys. Because it said, fascia is a continuous, three-dimensional sheet of connective tissue that surrounds and holds every muscle, organ, bone, and nerve fiber in place. That was, the main sentences of that Google AI. And what I loved about that is the three-dimensional mentioning, that was 4 fingers, three-dimensional, because the way I'm going to teach you tonight is that we are breathing three-dimensional, like you probably already know, but being able to breathe three-dimensional, how you're designed to breathe, you should not have too tight fascial restrictions around your rib cage, all the way from your jaw, all the way to the bottom of your pelvis. We are not going to work with all of the areas tonight, but you can. and it's easy. It's not hard, but you need to do it, and you can release it. And when you release it, you actually free up your breath. It's just easier to breathe. The brain wants to breathe. Your nervous system wants to breathe. Your body wants to breathe. But if it's not possible because you're too tight, you're locked in a cage, then you're not able to breathe optimal. I mean, you're not able to breathe free because of the fascial restrictions. And just defining where are the fascia located. Everywhere. It's located everywhere in your body, in between, connecting everything. I mean, it's connecting throughout the body like a total tensegrity system. I have different tools around me. That's why I look around to grab this one. So this is a very typical construction of a tensegrity, so-called tensegrity system. And the body works like this system. So if I'm gonna move my arm, let's say this is the arm part. I move this, I pull in this one. Then there is movement in all of the other areas in this tensegrity system. That is how your body functions. So if I'm moving my arm, something is happening in all of the located area connecting to the arm, exactly like this model does. So when you breathe, it is a continuous movement that is kind of like a wave talking to other body areas. Not only the lungs, but other body areas feels it. So the problem around the fascial system is that if you get too tight, for example, I can lock these two poles. I lock them. Now you have become too tight in your fascial system. And remember, the fascial tissue is all around in your body. It is around the joints. It is in between. It is in between and around and connects everything. Not going into those details furtherly. So if this is too tight, this area could be around the rib cage somewhere. And you're trying to move somewhere else. I mean, you're trying to breathe, for example. Then look what happens. I'm moving this one. So I'm trying to do something here, but what happens? Nothing happens really here, but I overdo it. I overuse other areas. That's where the issues comes in. And with the breath, it's very simple, because if you want to breathe three-dimensional, you need space and less tension all around the three-dimensional area. All right, I hope that makes a little bit of sense, because it's very important to understand that when we continue working with the breath, the lungs, the diaphragm, the rib cage, the pelvis, the abdomen, the back, we need to remember that a breath creates a movement inside your body. You can feel it. Thank God of your interoception. And when you breathe, you feel a movement outside, I mean on the surface of your body. So you sense a movement inside, you breathe and you are expanding, and you breathe out, you are releasing. That's how it goes on 24/7. But if And now I'm gonna use some of my tools. You have got some fascial tissue that was too tight for a reason. And now I wrap around some Dutch tape, I think it's called in English. It's non-elastic tape. And then when I try to breathe now, it's like, wow, I'm not really able to breathe. Oh, what's happening? I can't really breathe. And if I'm trying, it's like, I'm gonna have to push to breathe. That's not how it should be. All right. This is not elastic at all. So this is the worst case. Typically, this is a rubber band, just a rubber band. Typically, you will create, or your body will create, tight areas, like there's still a little bit of a movement, but it's hard. So for a normal breath 24/7, you won't use that area. It could be in one part of your rib cage, etc. Maybe we're gonna explore a little bit later on. So the fascial tissue plays many roles in the body. It plays a role like different roles. So in the Achilles tendon, which also is connective tissue, the Achilles tendon, which is just, right here, it's very thick. It's strong, it's thick, it's not that elastic. It's more like this. Other kinds of fascial tissue should be more elastic, like this, for example, and other kinds should be more like this. Just to make you understand that there are very many different types of fibers and jobs, functions, roles in the body with the fascial tissue. And I don't want to go into that, just to make you aware that's how you're designed.
Cool. How good is Lottie at explaining all that? And English isn't even her first language, and she nails it. So Lottie has been working with me a little bit. I had some terrible back pain. Like when I'd lay on the ground, this was fascinating to me. I tried yoga, Pilates, and my lower back was always arched like this. You could get your hand under there. And no matter what I did, it was always like arched up. And you'll learn this on the program. We rolled a towel up and I put it under my bum. I did a little bit of stretching work with it. And it was, I think, less than 4 minutes. In less than 4 minutes, I took the towel away. My back is almost pressing into the ground. It opened up so much. Incredible what the fascia system does. It's really blown me away. And so that's why stretching alone is not going to fix a lot of these issues. So hopefully just a little summary of where we are, because we are at the hour, and I hope you can stick around for a few more minutes. I'd love to take you through a breathing exercise. But hopefully what we're getting here is lung capacity is really important, especially as we age. Get that lung capacity for 10-year-olds. You don't want that, do you? So we want to be able to breathe easily. So if we have to go for surgery, if we're in any sort of issue, if we're an athlete, if we want to pump the lymph fluid like Nesta spoke about, if we want to just get the heart so it's not having so much pressure on it, diaphragm needs to move, rib cage needs to move. There are specific stretches that do and will help with that, but that's not the whole story. We've got to work on the diaphragm. We've got to look at the fascia system as well. So last couple of slides. You've been a great audience, by the way, listening to me rabbit on about this. Thank you so much. So a couple of bits. So Dr. Blisser did a study on her breathing IQ, and with just a little bit of work, and again, I'm going to share the study as part of the little digital goodie bag that we send out. So if you're a geek like me and you want to get into it, she was able to get a lot of people to improve their breathing IQ in one session, which is insane. So people have been walking around this planet for decades, not able to take a proper breath. And they they do one of these sessions and suddenly they're able to learn, their mind remembers how to breathe properly. Dr. Bliss has got a great saying. She'll say, your body knows how to breathe properly and it wants to breathe properly. We've got to show it how. We've got to remind it How? We're not learning new skills here, you and I. We're just remembering what we already know, what we knew probably before we were 5. So, a couple of last bits. If you liked Lottie's personality and teaching style, and you've got any value from tonight, then I would love for you to consider joining us next Sunday. So next Sunday, we're launching a 4-week Fascia release program, and there's a load of extra bonuses that go in there. So it kicks off, it runs for 4 Sundays. It starts around this time, so it starts at 5 p.m, which is the time I believe this went live in the UK. I'm in Europe at the moment. It runs for 4 Sundays. It's me and Lottie teach together. Sadly, she couldn't be here tonight, but she's here in spirit. But she'll be teaching with me, and she'll be going through the Fascia program. And with just a towel and maybe a ball if you've got one, we can unleash your fascia over those 4 weeks. But it doesn't end there as well. I wanted to always give a lot of value on these. So it's around £200, $267 for the entire program. You get to keep all the modules for life. We'll be doing a Q&A each week. It's the good sessions, 2 hours minimum that we'll be running for. So plenty of time to ask questions. We'll give you the recordings afterwards as well, so you don't worry about losing them. And then wanted to give you like some extra bonuses just to make sense basically. So for those of you that are not in my current programs, which I know some of you are, we'd also give you our Airheads Masterclass, which we've been selling for $500. This is a week's worth of training where, and I'm not exaggerating here, we got some of the world's best breath instructors to come together to teach your body how to breathe. James Nestor was there, Patrick McEwen from Oxygen Advantage was there, Anders Olsen was there, Jesse Kuma was there, and a number of other people turned up for that. You get access to that. Also going to give away 3 months of group coaching, which we charge for, and you get access to our private community for 3 months. And Lottie's also thrown in her vagus nerve reset program, which you can buy separately, but she's going to give that to you as soon as you sign up. And then, because I love a good bonus, for the first 10 people that do sign up, you'll actually get an extra 45-minute coaching session with me. Even if you're inside our community, you'll actually get that as well. So what's going to happen over the next couple of days is we are going to keep the tickets just for the people that are on here and who joined the waiting list. And then if there's any tickets left off the back of that, then what we're going to do is we're then going to release them to the general public on our main email list. So Lottie wants to keep this quite small and quite intimate so that we can see you and give you advice as we go in. So we're literally not going to, we can't sell like 1,000 people because it just wouldn't work. So what I've just done there is I've just popped the link in, although I've put a weird character in it. Bear with me 2 seconds. Let's try again. And so if you are interested, there's payment plans available. If those payment plans don't meet your financial budget and you're struggling right now and you want to do this, drop me an email and let's have a chat and see if we can figure something out. Maybe we can do a slightly longer payment plan. We don't always do that, but sometimes I know some people are watching this, they might be retired on benefits or have had some tough luck over the last year, and we'll support that where we can. And if you can support it and you want to go ahead, we'd love to get you on this program as well. The group, we're not quite sure, Nuala, but again, it's not going to be hundreds of people. We've got to keep it quite tight. So yeah, we're going to, once we've got to a place, I think Lottie's got a number in mind, we'll close the door on that. So the link is there. I'm going to share last couple of bits, and then for those of you that have been so gracious to stick around, I'm going to also do a breathing exercise with you. So where are we? Yeah, okay, good. All right. So I thought, what can we do? So you're going to get a goodie bag off the back of this, so don't worry. I'll give you a load of stuff in there. But I think what's one thing we could all do together now? Well, let's probably work on our exhale and actually feel what a deep exhale feels like. And I'll give you some extra exercises after this, so you can even do a bit of fascia work. There's a lovely fascia exercise that I've got that I can share with you from Lottie that works the front of the chest. But let's do a little bit of exhale work now. So we're going to do 2 things. We're going to essentially do respiratory muscle training and some CO2 training just by sitting in our chairs. Now, I really like this. This is called a relaxator. I know some of you have got it because you've been in my courses. It's about $25. I'll send the link as part of the goodie bag. It's the best $25 you can spend on a breathing device that I found. It makes it really hard to blow the air out and it makes your diaphragm work really strong. But we're going to create those conditions with our lips and with our body. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a candle breath. Okay, so we're going to take a big slow inhale. By the way, I can see people asking questions about the fascia course. I will close with that. So Nadia, it starts next week and runs for 4 weeks. So it's the first week of February, but I will come back. I'll stick to the breathing exercise and then we'll answer those questions. So we're going to take an inhale. We're going to blow out a candle, and your job is to try and make the pursed lips as tight as you can to make the exhale last as long as possible. Then we're going to do something a little bit more challenging. So when you're with me, watch your shoulders as you're doing this, because if I take a big inhale now, look, I bring those shoulders up. That's like an example of like a terrible breath. So what I want you to do is slowly breathe in. Try that with me now. So blow all the air out first. Slow inhale through the nose. Keep the shoulders relaxed. And then when you're ready, candle breath, blow it out. And relax. We're going to do it a couple of times. Pay attention to your abs the next time. See if you can feel a tensing of the abs. And when you're playing with your candle breath, look, I can go like this. That's really like open breath, right? And I can also go like this, where it's like a pinprick. So I want you to just play with your lips a little bit and go and see if you can make it quite small and then force the air through it a little bit. So let's try that again. So blow all the air out for me, blow it all out. Slow inhale through the nose, shoulders relaxed. Hold. And when you're ready, candle breath, pay attention to the abs. When you're ready, take a nasal inhale. Let's just do a quick recovery breath. A couple of bits on this that just need to be aware of. Practice helps. A couple of minutes a day. If you're getting light-headed, take a break. You don't want to make yourself feel too woozy. But let's just think about what's going on. So think about the size of your windpipe. And if I take a big breath in, I can be empty in a second because the windpipe's massive. Even with the nose, I can force the air out quite quickly. You know, I've got big nostrils, luckily. I thought there was a problem when I was getting picked on as a kid, and I became breath coach, and I realised I got a freaking superpower. Anyway, I'm joking. When we do the pursed lips, or we use a relaxator, which has a pinprick size hole. I'll just show you what this does. If my camera will zoom in, it may not zoom in. You can see that black space, right? I can close that off. It's not going to zoom in on it. But basically, I can open and close this hole. So you're forcing your air out of a very, very small hole. That means the diaphragm has to work harder to push it out. So we're doing some respiratory muscle training. We're also engaging those ribs we spoke about, so activating the ribs as well. So this is going to really help with lung capacity. It's going to help you get stale air out, reset the breath, bring the diaphragm up, meaning your next inhale comes down and descends much nicer. So let's do one more. So blow all the air out for me, blow it all out. Nasal inhale, shoulders relaxed. Pursed lips, blow as long as you can. And relax. I'm going to give you one more exercise. This one is challenging, so bear with me as we go through it. James Nestor taught this to me. It's called the 10-9-8-7 breath. It might have a better name. I don't know. We're going to take a big inhale. Shoulders are relaxed. And we're going to count 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going to breathe out, keep talking till the point where it's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. And we're going to blow all the air out. Your diaphragm is going to come up so high, it's going to be the deepest exhale you've ever had. It's doing a couple of things. It's working the diaphragm muscle. It's blowing out the stale air. It's building CO2 tolerance. So there's a lot of things going on with this exercise. It is very challenging if you push yourself. So I would say go gentle, a couple of rounds, just feel it, and then you can add this to your toolkit. Okay, so let's try that now. So just blow the air out normally, blow it all out for me. Take a nice big full inhale through the nose. Hold it for a sec. Let it out through the mouth. Now you're at a neutral lung. At this point, verbally, let's count down. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Don't breathe in. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then recover the breath. Can be very challenging. If you only did one round of counting, that's okay. If you did 7, because I know we've got all sorts of people in this group tonight, what you're trying to do is find your limit and play with it a little bit, because you're not bringing any fresh air in. You're blowing all the air out. Your CO2's going up. It's about important to stay relaxed. So they would be my 2 important exercises to go and play with next week. 10, 9, 8, 7 breath, which I'll send you a link to, and also candle breath. I'll also send you the link to the relaxator as well. So that concludes the workshop. We did overrun. It's not too bad. Lung capacity is really important. Really, really important. Obviously, there's so many other things that are important, but lung capacity is really, really important. New England Medical Journal said it's the #1 predictor of mortality. It affects heart rate variability, something everyone's so desperate to get these days because we want the heart to be a good listener. We want to live longer, happier. We want to make sure that when we do need surgery or something goes wrong or we get a respiratory infection or whatever happens, we're fit. I heard this wonderful quote the other day. It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. And you can take that many ways. You can think about, is it a macho thing? I don't think it is. I think it means that whatever is going on in our lives, we get the luxury that we get to age. A lot of people never did. A lot of people never got to our age. We're really lucky to be here. But as part of that happens, loads of things start kicking in, don't they, as we age? So it's really important that we keep ourselves strong. We're a warrior in the garden waiting for that day where we might need it. And one of those things that we'll all need at some point in our lives, if we're lucky enough to keep living, is we're going to need our lung capacity for whatever reason. So we know now it's really important, and we know that it's controllable. And you can do stretching and fascia work, and you can do breathing exercises to increase your lung capacity. So you've not got lung capacity of a 10-year-old, you've got lung capacity of somebody much younger. You can force the air in and out, and you can bring oxygen to all your cells in your body. So I hope that's inspiring for you, and you walk away from today going, I can make changes. This is possible. I can make these changes in my life. And just to go back to the old fascia course, this is a big part of it. We're not just selling random things here. I've thought long and hard about this. I've interviewed Lottie twice before I invited her to come and teach to my audience. Lottie's fantastic. She's one of the top experts on the planet, and I'm really excited that she said yes. And so we kick that off next week. The link is there. You can scan that QR code. It's £200, $267. And there's a ton of stuff in there as well. So we always want to blow your socks off and make everything worthwhile. The masterclass from Airheads is incredible. And you will be blown away by the stuff that's in there. The coaching within our community, I know there's people like Pam and others that have been in there before. Come back in and say hello. You get 3 months of coaching with us. You get the Vegas Nerve Reset program from Lottie. And you'll get a bit of coaching with me if you're the first ones. Tickets are going on sale now. So I'm just going to open up for any questions that people might have. So let's just have a look through. Tracy, thank you. Saloni's here. Saloni, thank you. I didn't know you were here. We've got Celine, thank you. Oh, lovely comments. If you miss a class, yeah, Trish, great question. Everything's recorded. So we always do that with our programs. You're going to get all the recordings. If you can't make a class as well, and you want to ask a question, you can send it to me and I'll make sure that we get your question answered as well. Just pop the link back in as well. We've got Paul, thank you. Oh, Paul, have you joined, Paul? Thank you. Nada's here, thank you, Nada. I started smoking at 14. I became a chain smoker until I finally stopped 25 seconds. However, I suspect I may never have learned how to breathe properly, so I remained a vertical breather until started sound healing. Can your course help? Yeah, I mean, we are addressing that. That's part of what we do, Howard. Thank you for being so vulnerable. I don't share this very often. I'll share that with all of you. It was funny. I only shared this today for the first time. I was a big smoker, which is crazy to admit now as like a breath coach. But I smoked a lot of cigarettes in my younger years, and I never really enjoyed it. It was really a peer thing. And I remember it was February 2018. I had my last cigarette, and I was out in a town with my work team, and I was like, this is disgusting. So I had a lot of work to do. I think that part of my stress came from that as well. So Howard, yes, we will be looking at the vertical horizontal work, and the work that we're going to do, the fascia, is going to completely open up your body so you relax, and you only need a towel and a ball. Does the course focus on releasing the fascia around the ribcage? Yes. So great question, Kim. I did have a little slide on that. Let me go back. Wow, I talked a lot tonight. You're so good for listening to me. Thank you so much. Where's it gone? Here you go. This is what I should have shared. This is my bad. So these are the 4 weeks. So we've got week 1 is about opening up your back. So fascia techniques for the back of the body, breathing into our backs. Week 2 is about opening up the sides. Week 3 is about the front. And week 4, you can't see that, but it says pelvis, integrating the pelvis. So pelvic floor exercises as well. So Lottie and I spent a lot of time talking about this and thinking, how can we get this into a 4-week program? And within those 4 weeks, we will show you all the exercises you need with a floor and a towel and occasionally with a ball. You don't need the ball to open up the fascia. And as I said, I did this on my own arched back. I actually did this again about 4 days ago because I'm sleeping I'm in Poland at the minute in my mother-in-law's house. And the bed is like a freaking rock, which I used to think was amazing. And then my back is like, ah. And so the other day, my back was arched again. And so I got the towel here, did the rolly thing, and just stretched the fascia on my back. And again, I was like, oh my God, the back. My wife said, you need to make some content about this. Anyway, so the back was all relaxed again. So we'll be teaching all those techniques there as well. Where I'll be playing in this, I will be taking a back seat in this course. I will be sharing some breath work to help us relax before the session so that we've got a better chance of opening up the fascia. And I may share some breath work at the end of the sessions as well. But really, Lottie is the star of this. Lottie is the fascia expert, and she'll be taking people through that program as well. I can see a few people have already purchased it, so thank you to those if you're still on the call, because the little alerts are coming in here as well. Let me just make sure I've not missed any other questions. Each session's 2 hours, Kat. So it'll be running at 5 p.m. London, which is 12 p.m. Eastern time, and we'll run for 2 hours. And knowing me and Lottie, we may run over a little bit as well, but 2 hours is generally what we're going for there as well. I think that's it. So look, we've still got people trying to get in. Bless them, they got the hour wrong. Okay, so I think we'll draw it there. I can talk all day about breathing. I actually have another class to prepare for in a couple of hours, so I need to go and get ready for that class now. And I've got a few members that will be in there. Nada, I don't know if you'll be in bed by. Oh no, Nada's in Europe now, aren't you? You'll be there, Nada. Yeah. Okay, good. So thank you for joining. Happy New Year to you. It's wonderful that you've spent some time. Not sure if the payment got through. Okay, Janine, I'll check for you and come back to you in a sec. I'll text you. I get distracted by the comments. Thank you for being here. Happy 2026. The other thing, I'll just mention this now. This is the golden rule of when you do these. You should never mention 2 things. I'm going to break that golden rule. We have something called a breath calendar at the moment. I got this idea from Sarah Beth Yoga. I'm talking to her husband, who's Ace. And what it is, it's a daily breathing practice that takes just 10 minutes a day because everyone's freaking busy. So if you're sitting there going, I haven't got £200 right now, it's completely out of my budget, but I want to do something. We do have our daily breath calendar, which is just $10 a month. I build an entire calendar, 31 exercises, and each day you get a little alert and you get a little 10-minute guided breathing exercise. And then we've got a little community where you can update when you've done it, and we've got a load of exercises in there and extra support as well. So if it sounds like something more your street, I will send that email to you and I'll just pop it in here as well. But we've had a lot of fun with that. We've had over 70 people take part in that. So it's in school.com, Corey. So it's $10 a month, cancel anytime. It's the standard program, and in there, yeah, we've got the breath calendar. So we're having a lot of fun. I'll just quickly share my screen actually, so you can see what's going on with that. So if you go, it's actually live right now. That's quite funny. So it's called the 10-minute breath club. You get a little alert like this in the school. You get a little link here to a video that I've got. This one's just a 6-minute Buteyko breathe in. And each day, the calendar gives you a different exercise. This took freaking ages, by the way, to put these 30 exercises together, these 31 exercises. So if you're already a member of this community, which some of you are, you've got this for free. If you want to, and you've got different memberships, and if you want to come in just at the $10, you just get the calendar, but it's very, very helpful, and you get the access to the community as well, where you can ask questions, you can share updates. So this is it, the 31-day breath challenge. We've already had 70 comments on this, which is really, really cool. And what you'll see is, look, everyone's doing it. I did it yesterday, preparing for bed, and today before I ever got up. Today was the perfect process to prepare for the day before my feet even hit the floor. So we're getting really, really lovely updates from people here. So if $10 is more where you're at right now a month, come on in and say hi and take part in the $10 breath club. And if you're interested in the fascia work, do both. But if you're at zero at the moment, you've got the YouTube community as well. So there's lots of ways that you can get support here. Thank you very, very much. Oh, I'm glad, Phil. Time well spent. Good. That's my goal here. Thank you very much. Is the daily thing recorded? The daily things are recorded class, Corey. So it's literally you go in and it just gives you a link. And I spent hours this week figuring out what are the perfect 30 because I've got about 500 exercises on my YouTube channel. So I'm trying to think like which ones go together and what's under 10 minutes and And so we built that so it's kind of working each day together. So there you go. All right. Okay, everybody. I appreciate you. Think about your lung capacity for longevity. We'll do more of these free workshops as the year goes on. And please consider the Fascia group. I really believe it has the power to change your life. Relax your body so you can breathe easier, have more lung capacity, sleep deeper, have more energy. And I'll see you all very soon. All right. Take care, everyone. Happy New Year. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone. Thanks, Daphne.